What's going on, everybody? C4 here today on Combine Weekend. Let's do what I said I was going to do all along. That is release my final updated 2.0 positional rankings. And we're going to start with maybe the ugliest, nastiest, most disgusting, but important position on an NFL team. That is the offensive line. So in today's video, we'll be taking a look at my top 5 tackles and my top 5 offensive guards. People love this shit on the way I say that. For this year's draft class, plus talk about a couple other guys that look pretty solid for me and I was somewhat impressed with. So today, we'll start firstly with the tackles. I'd say tackles are a little bit more important, I guess, in overall scheme fit. They usually go and get drafted a little bit higher than the guards. My original rankings, at number 5, I had Roderick Johnson. At number 4, Garrett Bowles. Number 3, Adam Bisnawadi. Number 2, Cam Robinson. And number 1 was Ryan Ramczyk from Wisconsin. So, what we have now for the tackles post-combine, number 5, I'm going with Antonio Garcia. The tackle from Troy, 6'6", 302 pounds, had 33 3/8 for his arm length. That's very, very, that's fringe short for a tackle, considering that he's 6'6", but it's not bad. It's not like, one's got to come out there and saying like Charlie's uncle from Always Sunny with the small hands, where he has to have the big hands to compensate. I think Garcia's length is ideal for his size. Pro comparison from him, there's no real one. NFL Network gave him Jared Veld here, who was a very successful tackle, be it on the Arizona Cardinals or on the Oakland Raiders. That's, I guess, fair. It's really, really tough to really give pro comparisons to offensive linemen, but he will be a left tackle, and left tackles are usually a little bit more preferred than right tackles. He's a great athlete, and he has a very, very nasty mentality. At his combine, he ran a 5.16 40 and put up 24 in the bench press. It seems like now, with that shorter arm length in consideration to a couple of the other guys we're going to talk about, 24 on the bench press is a little bit low, but it's not, you're not putting up Donnell Pumphrey numbers on the bench press. So for me, I think that's good enough here to get him at the number 5 spot. Go number 4 is Adam Bisnawadi, falling one spot for my 1.0 rankings. The talented right tackle from Pitt, 6'6", 304 pounds, with a 33 7/8 arm length. For him, pro comparison on NFL Network was Darrell Williams, who I can't even fucking remember. Darrell Williams, did he play for the Cardinals as well? But I just saw Adam Bisnawadi from the couple games I watched Pitt play. More so I was watching for James Conner, but he came up on a lot of tape, making pancake blocks. He will definitely be a right tackle. I think he's a very strong run blocker, one of the best in this year's draft class. The only thing holding him back is his somewhat limited athletic ability, as we saw on how he tested at the combine. Ran 5.2 3/40 and a 23 bench press. Again, really the 10-yard split is the only thing that matters for offensive linemen in the 40-yard dash. But I mean, there's always that one freak. Look at, like, they did I'll talk about actually in a second here. They did a comparison of the top 40 times, the top 10 40 times, and 9 out of the 10, outside of Bruce Campbell, who was a bust, 9 of the 10 guys have went on to have great NFL careers. So maybe there is some more truth to running a strong 40 time and showing that you're a great athlete than people, a lot of people just want to write off offensive linemen before they run their 40. But yeah, Bisnawadi coming in at number 4. I think he'll be a great right tackle in the NFL. Go to number 3. It is Garrett Bowles from Utah, 6'5", 297 pounds, with 34-inch arms. The only real concern for Bowles, who will definitely be a right tackle in the NFL, is age and experience. He's 24 years old. You're starting to creep up into goddamn Lane Johnson, or not Lane Johnson, sorry. Well, even Lane Johnson wasn't a spring chicken. But you're getting up there into Danny Watkins territory. 24 years old, that's how old I am, all right? I've been out of school for a year. Plus experience concerns. Only really played 1 year. 1 year of college ball. Had some off the field issues. 1 year of, FBS football anyways. He had a tough upbringing. Seems like that is all right. I'm sure he may be a guy if you're interested and you want to do some extra interviews with to make sure everything ticks the boxes off there. Did not participate in the bench press, but ran a 4.95 40, which was, aside of the one guy that really blew it away, probably the best 40 time, and came up real good at the combine. Helped his stock a little bit, just a little bit. But definitely want to see the bench press. Maybe there are some strength concerns. He wants to wait till his pro day. Not exactly sure, but because of his upside, and he's ready to go now. At 24 years old, he's into his body, opposed to guys who are 22, 21. He already has those extra years of body development. I think that has him as pretty much a lock as my number 3 right now for the offensive line. Going to number 2 at tackle. Yes, at tackle. Some people have him. Mike Mayock, who I actually like, had him as an offensive guard. Is Cam Robinson from Alabama, 6'6", 322 pounds, with 35.5-inch arm length. Jesus Christ, that is monstrous. Like I said, in comparison to guys like Antonio Garcia and Adam Bizdawadi, he got full 2 inches on them, baby. Pro comparison from him is, before on the NFL Network has it as Eric Flowers, who's horrible, absolutely horrible on the New York Giants. Do you really see him as a tackle or a guard? I think he will be a tackle. You don't start for Alabama at tackle and shut down the kind of players he has throughout his career just to make the transition to guard. Super high potential. I think he might have. I think there's bust potential. Anytime there's a player that you're uncertain, so uncertain, it seems like there's almost a split between tackle and guard. Those guys there can get stuck in a limbo depending on if a team doesn't want to overcommit to one position. You can be stuck at, jack of all trades, master of none, and that's not really what you want for a guy that you're going to draft super high in the first round, which is where he'll probably go. He'll probably be a top 20 pick. You get those utility guys that can play everyone on the offensive line in the third round, maybe second round, but you never use it on your first round pick, and that's where Robinson will go. I see him personally as a tackle, but either side, I think probably left tackle will be where I think he should fit. Get a little bit more beef, not as quick twitchy enough to play the right tackle spot. The big issue though for him is balance issues. I remember Mike Mayock was talking about it during the combine. That's why he thinks he may be a little bit more of a guard, but I think everything else will compensate, and he will definitely make some money here on the offensive line as a guard. So he ran a 5'1", 540 and did not participate in the bench press, which is kind of surprising. I guess he's probably waiting for a more familiar environment for his pro day. But 5'1", at 200 almost 330 pounds, very, very athletic, and I think he helped himself here with showing off his athleticism to all the scouts. And the number 1 offensive tackle right now is Ryan Ramczyk from Wisconsin, 6'6", 310 pounds, with 34 3/4-inch arm length. So with Ramczyk, pro comparison that I saw on NFL Network, we're just using the NFL.com one for now, is Joe Staley, who's made a great career at the left tackle spot for the San Francisco 49ers. He's definitely, Ramczyk will be a left tackle. I think he can play right tackle, but because left tackle is a little bit thin this year, I think a team that will, invest a fairly high pick, he will be a first rounder. We'll hope for him to play left tackle. He's a good athlete and has great mechanics. He's just more ready than a guy like Cam Robinson. Cam Robinson kind of needs maybe a year or two, probably a year, at least his first year, to work his way, and you may not want to throw him to the Wolves right away, but a guy like Ryan Ramczyk, he should probably be able to come in and start day one, wherever you want to put him. Even though, he doesn't have the most, historic background, if you will. I mean, Cam Robinson got all the Outland trophies or whatever the fuck, all those offensive line trophies. But Ramczyk only really played, very limited ball with Wisconsin. He kind of, I think he only played really 2016 was his only year that he played, and he was excellent in that 1 year. So the tape is not as extensive as some of the other picks, but I think Ramczyk here is still and was and will be and will remain my number 1 offensive tackle for this year's draft class. Did not participate in the 40. I don't even know if he'll run it. It is still kind of pointless, but he put up 25 on the bench press, which is acceptable, not great, especially because he has a little bit shorter arm length than some of the other guys, but 25, I think that would be the bare minimum I would want for an offensive lineman. But then again, look at fucking Cody Whitehair last year. Shit, I think he had like 13 or something crazy low on the bench press. He ended up being one of the top offensive lineman rookies for the Chicago Bears last year. So those are the tackles, and now let's jump into the offensive guards. And actually, I guess before we jump on into the offensive guards, we'll give out our little bit of awards and rankings and stuff for the tackles. So for the most NFL ready, it has to be Ryan Ramczyk. For the highest potential, I currently have it as Cam Robinson. For sleeper, I had it as originally Antonio Garcia, but because, he made my top 5, that doesn't necessarily make him a sleeper, does it? I'm not exactly sure. So I'm going to make my sleeper now. I'm going to change it from Antonio Garcia. I'm going to make it Avant Collins from TCU, actually, and we'll talk about it in just 1 second. For bust, I think it's Cam Robinson again, like I said when I was talking about him, just because he can't really fit him into, what position he's going to play. I don't like the whole, is he going to play one position, he's going to play the other. That fluidity is not exactly what I like on the offensive line, unless it's an interior guy. And when you start getting the discussion, is he a tackle or is he a guard? That's too big of a jump for me. But I do think more likely than not, Robinson will turn out to be a good player versus someone ending up like a DJ Fluker, perhaps. And then for the combine, this is a new thing that I added, different from my 1.1. Who would most improve their stock from the combine? And it is going to be Avion Collins from TCU. Ran at 4.8, 140 and put up 34 on the bench press. Combine warrior. And as I stated before, he made top 10 all-time 40-yard dash time since 2003. And on that list, 9 out of the 10 guys ended up being great NFL players. So I think some team will fall in love with him, and he is certainly, I'm not going to say he's going to creep up in the first round, but where I think before, where the hell would you even put a guy like that? He must have been, let's just see if I can pop up his projection. Avion Collins was projected to be, Jesus Christ, he wasn't even on the top 10. He's not even in the fucking, he was supposed to be pretty much undrafted. From the look of this draft, you're using CBS Sports. So we'll say, usually CBS Sports is sometimes off. We'll say he was probably a 5th-round draft pick at best. Now he may have creeped himself up into 3rd-round territory as a starting right tackle in the NFL. So now we're moving to the offensive guard position. We're jumping our top 5. At number 5, I have Dorian Johnson. Actually, before we jump to the top 5, here's our rankings from the first edition. So at number 5, we had Pat Elflein. Number 4, Forrest Lamp. Number 3, Dorian Johnson. Number 2, Ethan Posich. And number 1, Dan Feeney. So spoiler had it. Number 5, I now have Dorian Johnson from Pitt, 6'5", 300 pounds with 35 and a quarter inch arms. He did not test as good as I would have thought. I ran a 5.27, but only put up 21 on the bench press. Must have been those long arms. For those of you guys that aren't familiar with bench press, the longer your arms are, the more difficult it is usually to put up a lot of reps. I have short arms, so that helped me out in my combine. The pro comparison, NFL gives him a Jack Mewhort, who's been very solid for the Indianapolis Colts. With Dorian Johnson, he's well-rounded. I think he has lots of upside. I wouldn't classify him as a project player, but I definitely can see him elevating his game once he gets to an actual offseason training camp and with some NFL offensive line coaches. Great run blocker. Potential. NFL says here that he has potential to be a day one starter, and I agree with that. You watch him at Pitt. More so I was watching James Conner play, but he looked very solid. Him and Biznawadi are 2 great offensive linemen from Pitt that will definitely have long, lengthy NFL careers. Go number 4 is Ethan Posich from LSU, 6'6", 310 pounds with 33 and an 1/8 inch arms. I think with Posich, the only issue with him is you're almost getting in Cam Robinson territory, but luckily with him, it's more so where he's going to play on the interior. But with his size, you never know. Some team may take a gamble and try to swing him to a guard spot. His combine ran a 5'1", 240 and put up 26 on the bench press, which is solid, but he has shorter arms for that big, long, rangy frame. Pro comparison they gave him was Brandon Linder, who played a little bit of guard, who played a little bit of everything. When in his days with the Miami Hurricanes. Now he's a center, a very solid center for the Jacksonville Jaguars. For Posich, he's incredible, versatile, good athlete, patient blocker. That's something that you want. Some people like the big maul that latches onto a guy right away, but Posich is a little bit more intelligent and will make the best block as opposed to making the first block. And you can sometimes see that with the super athletes. They just find the first guy and they fucking ride him into the ground. Whereas Posich will take a second. Obviously, you can't fucking sit there and go, who am I gonna block? But the fact that he takes a little bit of time and tries to analyze what would be the safest block and the most important block to make could be very influential to some teams and what they look for an interior guy. But I have him currently sitting at number 4. Number 3 is a guy that rose a lot, had an excellent combine, and I was already getting ready to bump him up a little bit, and that is from Temple tough Dion Dawkins at number 3, 6'4", 314 pounds with 35-inch arms, big long motherfucking arms. The combine ran a 5'1", 140, put up 26 on the bench press. The pro comparison NFL.com gives him right now is Joe Barksdale. But actually with Dion Dawkins, he's versatile. Again, that is going to be a word that comes up with a lot of my top 5 guys, because that's what I look for in my interior offensive lineman. Anytime someone goes down, you only dress 7 offensive linemen. So the more versatile a guy can be, the more added value I like to add to him. Great athlete. He's very well coached coming from Temple. Most guys that come from Temple under Matt Rule are incredibly, incredibly well coached. I think Matt Rule is going to do wonders for that Baylor program that needs some help. But I think Dawkins here is bumped up. He can't, some people think he may be able to play a little bit of tackle. I think he's best projected to be a guard. And I think he's a guy that can be a day one starter. He has certainly improved his draft stock here at Combine Weekend. Go number 2 is Dan Feeney from Indiana, 6'4", 305 pounds with 33 and 3/8 inch arms. I think with Dan Feeney, where he was my number 1 guard, it was just more so, it was kind of somewhat fluid here for the top 2. I went with the guy whose tape looked pretty good, but he tested a lot better. A lot better. But for Dan Feeney, pro comparison for him is Clint Bowling. He's going to be a great zone scheme blocker, and he's pro ready, which is something that always you want in a guard, because usually you don't want to have a project at the offensive guard spot. You want guys that can come in, maybe not necessarily start right away, but I mean, guards are getting hurt left, right, and center. Guys rolling up on them, and they get on little fucking run piles and stuff like that. Having a guy like Feeney that can probably start. A team like Seattle that needs a starter right away, he's going to be a perfect pick for them wherever they pick. I don't know, I think 20 something. Hot mid-20s. I think he'd be a nice little fit there. At the combine, he ran a 5.24 and put up 26 on the bench press. But with the pro comparison of Clint Bowling, he's had a very nice career with the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think Dan Feeney for sure will be I think he has all the potential to be a day one starter. But now the new crown champ for the number one spot on my offensive guard, it is Forrest Lamp from Western Kentucky. Mr. Forrest Lamp had one hell of a fucking combine. Was 6'4", 309 pounds with 32.25-inch arms. I guess that's a little bit short, which, you know, people are saying he played a lot of left tackle at Western Kentucky. People are saying that, and by people I mean most people, most scouts, I say that because I'm definitely not a scout, that, you know, he'll go to guard. And seeing that very short arms, usually want at least 34-inch, ideally, arms for your outside tackles, it makes the move to guard pretty much, you know, clear as day. So what we're going to do here with him is a pro comparison to Zach Martin, where Zach Martin, left tackle, can move to offensive guard in the pro. He's very versatile. He's pro ready. And I don't see any clear defined weakness. Obviously, he got fucking eaten alive by Pasana during the Senior Bowl, who's that, you know, freak athlete from Villanova. But for the most part, everyone has a bad day, and I think Lamp will be able to turn it around. Most of his tape was great, and everyone, I remember I never actually officially saw it until watching the scouting combine. They showed his tape against Alabama, and he was shutting down John Allen, shutting down Tim Williams. It was incredibly impressive for as impressive that offensive line tape can be. And his combine numbers, 4.9940, and put up 34 on the bench press. That's why I have him slightly edged ahead here of Dan Feeney as my number one offensive guard, and I think him and Feeney both have the potential to be a day one starter. So for the awards, if you will, for the offensive line, for the most pro-ready offensive guard, I have still with Dan Feeney. Highest potential, Forrest Lamp, my number one sleeper, Nico Siragusa. For biggest bust potential, I have David Sharp, because again, kind of like Cam Robinson, no one knows if he's going to be a tackle or a guard. I think he should have stayed one more year at Florida. Maybe that's my Florida bias, and I'm upset that we lost a somewhat talented offensive lineman, but I don't know. I think he left too early. And for the one who helped his combine whose combine helped them out the most. There we go. Sounded out. I'm getting ready. I'm seeing on the back of the TV here, Leonard Fournette's getting ready to run his 40, so that's why I'm getting a little discombobulated. For the player that helped him most at the combine, it has to be Forrest Lamp. He had one hell of a combine, running a great time, showing explosiveness, showing athleticism, and putting up a number like that on the bench press. Whoo, you a bad man. So anyone else that kind of, stood out to me, I like Ben Braden from Michigan. He looked nice, but the number one guy that rose up my boards, and I think a lot of people, is Ethan Cooper, offensive guard from Indianapolis out of Pennsylvania. I think he tested very well, looked very good outside of the drills. I think for the combine stats, you got 5'3", 640, put up 26 on the bench press. So not super athletic, but I think as a developmental player, he showed me just from, the drills that they're doing, the outside field drills, that he could certainly rise up a couple people's boards here. But there you go, guys. Quickly. Well, that wasn't really quick. It's almost 20 minutes, but we got to do two positions. Those are my updated and final offensive line rankings for this upcoming 2017 NFL Draft. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below if you agree or disagree with my rankings. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. This is only the beginning of Draft Central, whatever the fuck you want to call it, draft season here on Beast Mode TV. Enjoy the video, smash that like button, and until next time, it's C4 saying peace out.